Maseches Bava Kame Daf Ayin Amud Aleph. Daf Ayin Amud Aleph in the Mishnah. This Shiur is Leilu Nishma Sovi Moire Menachem Ben Akiva. Zora Bas Moshe Ruth Bas Sholem L'Refua Noach Lionel Ben Yulia Oriya. And then many others. Besoch Shachol Yisrael. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Gonav Al Pi Shnaim. A person stole, and there were two people witnessing it. And by the way, I'll give a small introduction. This Mishnah talks about Bava Chamisha. It talks about the details of how a person can become chayiv 4 or 5 times over if he slaughtered or if he sold over the sheep or the ox. Gonav al pishnaim. He stole al pishnaim, meaning by, says Rashi, kloimer shnaim eidim moiser shegonav. There are two people who testified that he stole. And then later on, the very same people saw that he slaughtered or sold over. Okay, that's case number 1. Oi, or alternatively, al pi shnaim acherim, or there were 2 other people. In other words, there were Reuven and Shimon saw that he stole on Sunday, and then Binyamin and Yosef saw him slaughtering on Tuesday. That makes a huge difference, and we're going to discuss that today. So each group of eidim, each cast of eidim gives us a different piece of the puzzle. The first group tells me that he stole, and the other group tells me that he actually tovach umochar, stole or sold. So he has to pay 4 or 5 times over, as is the alohe. That's case number 1. Case number 2. Everybody knows about Mr. Kim. You know Kim, right? He's a Korean guy. Kim Lei, that's his full name. Kim Lei b'derabba minei. Kim Lei b'derabba minei, everybody knows, before we continue, is that when a person is doing something, sin, is breaking the halacha in a way that makes him be chayev misa. So he doesn't have to pay for if at the same time there are 2 chiyuvim, misa and also mamo in money, he only gets killed or is chayiv to get killed conceptually, and he doesn't have to pay the money. Having said that, now let's see the next case. Gonav, he stole on some point, umochar b'Shabbos, and he sold it on Shabbos. Now, if somebody sells an animal on Shabbos, is he chayiv misa? Is he chayiv skila? Yes or no? Is it the right of the Rabbanon not to sell stuff on Shabbos? The Rabbanon? No, it's the Rabbanon. Not to sell on Shabbos. I'm not about moving your shoes l'shus, just a business deal. Yeah, no writing involved. He sold it. He sold in some way, kilin chlipin indoors. So no chilul Shabbos. Since it's the Rabbanon, so it's not a chiyuv misa. You're not chayiv misa when you break the Rabbanon on Saturday. You are the Rabbanon. So gonav umochar b'Shabbos. If he sold on Shabbos, or gonav umochar l'avodah zorah, he sold it. After he sold it for avodah zorah. Avodah zorah means that he sold it for avodah zorah purposes. He sold an Indian guy the cow. Now the Indian can worship the cow as much as he wants. Is that an issur d'oraisa for the Jew to do? No. Maybe to be Messiah, lifnei iver. That's not chiyuv misa. It's definitely not chiyuv misa. If you sell it in avodah zorah, it could be d'oraisa, but it's not chiyuv misa. And therefore, we're collecting cases here in which the tvicha or mechira are not a chiyuv misa. There may be also d'oraisa, some of them, some d'rabbanan, but it's not something that you have to die for. You're not gonna be executed if you do that. Next case, gonav v'tovach b'yom kippurim. Tovach b'yom kippurim. He slaughtered on the Day of Atonement. The guy has no shame. On Yom Kippur, what did he do? He shechted the cow that he stole. Where's the guy holding in ruchnias? So was he over in issur d'oraisa? Yes. Is he chayiv misa b'dei odom? No. It's chiyuv kores, but it's not actually yetz melocha, but it's not the chiyuv misa of skila. Therefore, it's not kimle. Kimle b'derabba minei is only if beis din are the ones who are going to take care of the guy and execute him. Other than that, all other isurim are not chiyuv misa, and therefore they're not kimle b'derabba minei. And therefore, in all these cases, he's chayiv or bava chamisha. The monetary chiyuv still lies on him because he has no chiyuv misa. And that's a common denominator between all these cases. It's very glaring and very clear that there's one case that is on purpose missing over here. The Mishnah omitted one case and that is a person who stole at any day of the week, and then he shechted it on Shabbos. What would be the halacha then? If he shechted on Shabbat, he's chayv misa, he's chayv skila, and therefore he's not going to pay the Bava Chamisha, because that's our friend Kim. We have two friends. We have Tim Mackenzie and Kim. Tim and Kim. So Kim Lay tells us not to pay on for something that the person is chayv misa on. Next, please. Now comes a new series of cases, and they have to do with a different halacha. Before we continue, I'll tell you the halacha, which will explain to you the next case. Let's say a person steals and he is one of two partners, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 partners. The whole partners in the cow, including the man himself, and he stole it. He stole it from his partners. Science fiction. One partner steals from the other partners. So then eventually it was found, and even shechted it. So he doesn't have to pay 4 and 5. Because it's Gzeres HaKosuv, Chamisha, whatever, we'll see later on, that Shutfim, a Shutaf doesn't have to pay. So the same thing would be for a brother amongst the other brothers. And as you very nicely said, Yaakov, estate. Let's say part of the estate that the father inherited, bequeathed to the children, is the cow and the sheep. And one brother took it to a hidden place and shechted it there. So he's not chayav to pay 4 and 5. Of course, he has to pay. And Kefil we'll discuss later, but Abba Chamisha doesn't have to pay. Comes the Mishnah and tells me, Gona Mishal Oviv, a person stole from his father when the father was still alive. The father was alive. Oid avinu chai. The father is alive and he stole from the father. V'tova achu mocha. Then he did tvicha mechira. I'm not going to translate these 2 words to English all the time. It's hurting my mouth. V'tova achu mocha. I trust you know what that means by now. Yeah. Tova achu mocha. V'achar kach meis oviv. And afterwards the father died. Aha. Interesting. So Lemaisa, when he shechted it, it belonged to the father. But then the father dropped dead. The father saw, the cow is shechted, the father died. So now the brother is actually, the thief is one of a few partners in the cow. But because when he stole it and he shechted it, he was not a partner, because the tati was still alive, so he has to pay. Because he wasn't yet a partner. He was a regular guy from the street. He didn't own it. You don't own your father's money as long as the father is alive. And therefore, he does have to pay, as we'll see later on. I'm spoon feeding a little bit. The Gemara will say later on that you have to pay. Oh, you should know this one by now. He did Geneva, Betvicha, everything kahalocha. And then he was Makdish. Afterwards, he was Makdish, the animal after the Tvicha. After it was already, cut and maybe even salted, maybe even frozen in the freezer, whatever. You pay Bava Chamisha. Why? Because we all know that if you makdish and then you did tvicha mechira, you're not chaver Bava Chamisha and hektish, as we extensively spoke about. But the other way around, you are chayiv. The Mishnah say it's not a big chiddush. It's just this Mishnah, by the way, has a twin sister. In 2 Mishnahs from now, we're going to see all the opposite cases. Like first the father died and then he shechted, or first hektish and then he shechted. So this Mishnah, some of it is not a chiddush. It's just like a springboard to tell you the next one. Next, please. Before we continue to this part of the Mishnah, these are the last 2 cases, and that is, you should know, as I told you already, that if the person shoots the animal in the head, he's not chayav Bava Chamisha. Or even if he takes an ox and he shechts it with an ox, he's not chayav Bava Chamisha. Bava Chamisha is only in kosher shechita. Only shechita which is kosher, maybe not mahadrin, maybe rabbanut is also okay, I don't know. Lamaisa, only shechita, which is kosher, is the shechita that the Torah talks about, as we're going to learn later in the Psukim. So, gonav v'tovach lerefua. What would be if the person did shechita, and his idea is not to eat the meat, he wants to use it for refua, for some kind of medical purposes, some medical purpose. Either he wants to, I don't know, not eat the meat, but put it on his flesh, I don't know. He wants to make some kind of a new anti-corona pills from that meat. I don't know, new kind of invention, which of course nobody will allow him to do. So the refua, leklovim, he's a very frum guy. He wants to shecht the animal that his dogs are going to eat. Doesn't listen to Rabbi Tachtal, the anti-dog guy, and he wants to feed his klovim mahadrin. His klovim eat shechted b'datz. So he shechts the animal. And his purpose, refuah or klovim, is just other ways of the Mishnah to say that he shechted it for non-consumption, not for human consumption. He shechts it, but it's not for human consumption. So I would say maybe it's not called proper shechita. Maybe shechita is only kosher because it means to eat the animal. But if your kavanah is not to eat the meat, maybe you're potter. So maybe. But let's see what the halacha is. Next case. A shoichet v'nimtza streifa. Oh, the person shechted. Oh, the knife. He checked the knife so well, like this, and he got the best shoichet. He himself is the best shoichet of Machput, Bedatz, Rubin, and Landau. And then he shechted it. Alas, oy vey. The animal's treifa. What in a treifa? He shechted it very well. How could it be treifa? Of course. The animal is missing a lung. The animal has 50. It was a heavy smoker. It has, I don't know, 30 holes in the lung, and I don't know, he found their nails and whatever. But kids, so the animal's treif. The animal was terminally ill before it was shechted and he didn't know. So the animal, shechita, was kosher. Can you eat the animal? Obviously not. It's treifa. The animal itself is not healthy. Next case, a shoichet chulin ba'azoro. A person took the animal and he shechted it while it was chulin. He did not dedicate it to Beis Hamikdash. It's not hekdesh. It's chulin. And he shechted it inside the azora, which is in Beis Hamikdash. To shecht an unholy animal, so to speak, in the Beis Hamikdash is nicht a git. That's in Isser the Raisa or the Rabbanon. It's machlokes, but if it's the Raisa or the Rabbanon, but that's not something you should do. So that's interesting because the shechita is a good shechita. The shechita, if you just look at the shechita itself, you know, it has all 5 conditions of a good shechita. Very nice, no grama, akira, everything equal, everything is nice. Quick and smooth and easy, and wow, amazing. But it's done in the azara. You're not allowed to eat it, and you're over an avera. So mishalim tashlum arba b'chamisha. Wow. In all these cases of shechting for non-consumption reasons, or you shechted inside Beis Hamikdash, which is osir, and you won't be able to eat from it, so then you still have to pay arba b'chamisha. Why? Because the shechita, you only focus on the shechita itself. Since the shechita itself was kosher shechita, the shechita, you just focus the camera on the shechita itself. I don't care what he thinks about. I don't care about his purpose. And I don't care even if the animal is treifa, so you can't even eat it. Or he's doing an avera by doing it in Beis Hamikdash. That I don't care about all that. According to Tanakama, we say if the shechita is a good shechita, then you got to pay 4 and 5, and that's about it. That's Tanakama. Rabbi Shimon poiter b'shnei elu. Rabbi Shimon says in the second last cases, in the 2 last, not second, in the 2 last cases, latest cases in the Mishnah, then you don't have to pay. Why? If you shecht with the idea for nevela, for klovim, it's a good shechita. Even though you want to feed the boxer, the boxy, it's upsetter. Lamaisa, the shechita is a good shechita. But lamaisa, when you can eat it, you choose not to eat it. You want to give it to your dog, not to yourself. That's your own issue. You want to use it for a food. You could eat it if you want to. But the last 2 cases, you're not allowed to eat it halachically, right? Either because it's treifa, it has a hole in the brains, or it's missing an entire leg from the hip, the whole thing, or what? Or the shechita is in Beis Hamikdash. So there, halachically, it's really not allowed to be consumed. Such a case, says Rabbi Shimon, no. Rabbi Shimon says you need shechita reuya. Not only shechita that's kosher, only shechita as of itself, that's the shechita that really makes it kosher for me to eat the meat. That we'll discuss later. This is the end of the Mishnah, and we're only going to discuss today the first part of the Mishnah. It's time for questions, and I will also go now to recharge my phone for Baruch. I'm listening to every word you say. Dog the Eligi Gemara. Oh, it's off all the time. Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah. Says the Gemara. Before we start the Gemara, I just pointed out that eidim in halacha, witnesses in halacha, is a whole different story than secular law. Eidim in halacha, they basically accuse the person. In case of din and nefashos, they're the ones who kill the person. And eidus, once checked very thoroughly, is above any other proof you have in Beis Din. It's above migo, above chazaka, above anything else. Says the Gemara. Lema Masnisin, let us say that our Mishnah, Deloitte Rabbi Akiva, says the Gemara, I think our Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Akiva. What does that mean? Which part of the Mishnah and which Rabbi Akiva? The Rabbi Akiva, yeah, if we're talking about Rabbi Akiva, Ha'omar, Dovo Veloy Chatzi Dovo, which means Rabbi Kiva says, it says in the Torah, Al pi shnaim eidim yokum dovo. A dovo, a matter, a thing, a case, whatever you want to call it, a thing, a matter, stands by two eidim. That is to say, the two eidim have to give me the entire information, the entire picture, and the eidim cannot tell me half the piece of information. Which means our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Akiva. What was wrong in our Mishnah? The beginning of the Mishnah said that if you have one set of eidim, let's call them Reuben and Simeon, and Reuben and Shimon saw on Sunday that somebody stole, and then you had Yosef and Binyamin on Tuesday saw that the very same person, he shechted the animal. So then you have to pay 4 and 5. Something here doesn't work right according to Rabbi Akiva, because the eidim of when did he shecht? On Tuesday? Let's say on Tuesday shechted. If all they saw is a person shechting a cow, what's the offense? To shecht a cow? I thought it's a mitzvah. You guys vegetarian or something? What's your problem? It's only wrong to shecht an animal and make me pay 4 or 5 because of the other piece of information from Sunday that he stole. But you the judge, the dayan, you are actually joining together two pieces of puzzle. But each piece by itself, yeah, for sure the second piece is not worth anything, not for 4 and 5, right? So Rabbi Kiva, he ain't like that. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you have to be made dovo. The eidim have to actually testify in the entire case. By one eidus of the two people, one eidus alone has to give me the entire picture from A to Z, or A to Z, I'm sorry. Yeah, from A to Z, the eidim have to say the whole thing. But if the eidim, one group says something on Sunday of stealing, the other one said about shechting, the other day, what's wrong with shechting? What do you want from my life? Therefore, according to Rabbi Kiva, our Mishnah is not going to work right. That's what the Gemara wants to say at this point. Let's see. The Tanya, Rabbi Kiva can disagree with the Mishnah, of course. We're just pointing out, our Mishnah doesn't seem to be Rabbi Kiva, and everything will do good. The Tanya, it says in the Tanya of Chabad, says the Tanya, the Brisa. About Yosi. Rabbi Yossi says, "Ksholach Abba Chalafta etzel Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri." When Abba Chalafta went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, some say that Abba Chalafta was Rabbi Yossi's father. When Abba Chalafta, the big tzaddik, went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, lilmod Torah, he went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri to study Torah. That's one Tana going to learn Torah from the other one. The Amrila, some say was the other way. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, it's Abba Chalafta. Some say that it was the other way around. Abba Chalafta was the Rebbe. Omar Loi, so one told the other. Yeah, one of the Talmud told the Rebbe. Let's say, and now we're going, before I continue, to those of you who learned Cheskas Abatim can relate to that. If a person stayed in someone's house for 3 years, and he says, I bought the house from you a few years ago, and I lost the shtar. After 3 years, according to halacha, you don't have to keep the shtars anymore. In Israeli law, it's 7 years, by the way, for your accountant's documents. Okay? I don't know, don't tell me about other countries, yeah? But in halacha, if for 3 years somebody lived in your place and you were quiet about it, he didn't say anything, 3 years is either learned from shul, or 3 years is enough time to go to chutzarts and come back, v'chula v'chula, there are reasons why it's 3 years. But if lamaisa, somebody stayed in your property for 3 years and you seem to be all smug and cool about it, didn't say a word, and then he says, I bought it from you and I lost the shtar, now he can claim that the karka is his, and chazaka is in lieu of the shtar. But you need 3 years straight. Now, there are many cases in Cheskas Abatim. Baruch Hashem, we've been through that. 20 dapim full of a lot of things. But Lamaisa, 3 years, and now he comes to Beis Din, the one who's in the karka, the one who's in the apartment, in the flat, and he says, I lived there for 3 years, and therefore it's mine because I lost the shtar. He didn't say anything. Well, bring me eidim. Bring me eidim that you lived there for 3 years. Who said you lived for 3 years? I can also say I lived in 3 years in I don't know where, in San Juan. Who says I lived there for 3 years? Yeah. So let's say the star is as follows. There are 2 eidim that come and then testified that in the year Tafshin Pei he lived there. Very nice. Shniya bifnei shnayim. It was a rented apartment, and in Shnat Tafshin Pei Aleph there were 2 other people who testified that Mr. Defendant lived there the second year. There another group of 2 eidim. Shlishis bifnei shnayim. Oh, cool. That's getting interesting. Now it's the 3rd year, Tafshin Pei Beis already. Then you have another 2 people who come, 2 men who come and made that they lived there. So Lamaisa, we join Pei Aleph, Pei Beis together, although each year alone is nothing, but all 3 years together, and each year has a different set of eidim who tell me they live there. Mahu, ma alohe. What's going to be? Is that called? Can you join all 3 puzzle pieces together? You, Mr. Dayan Choshuv, and say, okay, I know how to count. Pei Aleph, Pei Beis. That's 1, 2, 3, and each year has 2 eidim who testify, and that's 2 eidim are great. Omer loy, yes, it's a chazaka. Yeah, it's a good chazaka. He doesn't believe in Rabbi Akiva's statements. He's not Rabbi Akiva Nick, and he says, yeah, if at the end of the day the Dayan knows at the end of the day that 1, 2, 3, although each segment of the edus is given by a different set of eidim, good for me. Omer loy, afani omer ken. I also think so. Yeah, I also think it's a good thing. And Rabbi Akiva disagrees with us. Rabbi Akiva is not in our camp. Because Rabbi Akiva used to say, davar v'lo chatzi davar. Al pi shnayim eidim yokum davar. Yeah, it says 2 eidim they make him. They establish the statement, but the statement, the case has to be wholesomely taken care of by the eidim. They're more than just a piece of information. They are the case, and therefore Rabbi Akiva says, I mean, you can say there's a kosher. You have a Torah in the Torah. The entire edus has to be given by one set of eidim from Tafshin Pei, Pei Aleph, Pei Beis. The entire 3 years together have to be. We have to be informed by one set of eidim. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. We're not in a goyish court here that we're just collecting pieces, and therefore it's all one piece, one thing, which all the eidim have to tell me they all start together. Aha. If so, it looks like our Mishnah for sure is not going to work with Rabbi Akiva, because our Mishnah seems to be scaringly similar. You have one set of eidim who said that he stole. Of course, he has to pay. He has to pay kefil, because on Sunday, Reuven and Shimon saw him stealing. Now, then on Tuesday, other people saw him shechting. Those other people, they don't know anything, or even if they know, their edus alone, their edus of itself is edus that he shechted a cow. Who cares he shechted a cow? What's wrong with that? Yeah, like vegan. Elamai, you're joining the 2 pieces together, and yet the Mishnah says you do join the pieces together. Our Mishnah does say you join Sunday, Tuesday together. So our Mishnah is nishta zoi friendly with Rabbi Akiva, which is legitimate. Rabbi Akiva and the Mishnah, whoever said the Mishnah, whoever the author of the Mishnah is not arguing. That could be okay. That's fine. That's nobody has to now jump off the roof. However, Omar Abai says no, it's not the same. Abai wants to make peace and love between Rabbi Akiva and our Tana. Omar Abai, afilu tema Rabbi Akiva. Even if you want to tell me Rabbi Akiva is the author of the Mishnah or agrees with the Mishnah, yes, our Mishnah could work with Rabbi Akiva. Why? Mila murder Rabbi Akiva. I'll give you another case. Wouldn't Rabbi Akiva agree? We already have now a 3rd case of joining edus. We had our case of ganaving, stealing, and then shechting. We had the case of year 1, year 2, year 3. Now we have another case, but they're all to do with each other. They're all variations on the same theme. Mila murder Rabbi Akiva. B'shnaim oimrim kiddush, b'shnaim oimrim boal. Let's say 2 people are made that Shprinza Bela got married on, she got married in Nissan. Yeah, no corona anymore, and she had a nice wedding. Mitzvei eidim kosher lemehadrin. The Rebbe checked the filter on the phones, and they're kosher eidim. And now she is mekudeshes in the month of Nisan. Ishnaim omrim boal. She's mekudeshes to who? To Chaim Yankel, of course. She's mekudeshes to Chaim Yankel. Then 2 months later, she was seen. Shnaim omrim boal. Other eidim, 2 other eidim, Yosef and Binyamin. Other eidim come and they say that on in Sivan, a few months later, she was seen having relations, mamish, with another man, with Yossi. Doesn't sound good. But Lamaisa, that lady will have to be taken to be hennicked. Yeah, she's going to be chayav nisa. You don't always require that the same eidim that tell me she's an Eishes Ish are the eidim that will see her having the affair. That's never heard of such a thing. Why is that? Because it makes sense. Let's continue the Gemara. The afal gav the eidei bia srichi leidei kiddushin. The eidei bia, if let's say that girl had no chezkas marriage, that girl before was not known to be married, right? They see a girl and a man, a boy. They're saying having relations in Sivan. If they don't know that she's married and he's not her husband, well, I wouldn't say there's nothing wrong, but maybe it's her husband. Maybe it's a legal husband. Or maybe it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, which is very bad, but you went to the mikveh. Okay, I'm not going to question. It's not chiyuv misa. It's not chiyuv misa b'de'odom. The only reason that they're coming to Beis Din so shocked and everything, they're basing themselves on the edus of other people from 2 months ago who are made she's married to another person, right? Otherwise, the edus that Shistam was in relations, real relations with somebody else, we don't know it's somebody else, right? Again, so you're going to tell me every Eshes Ish needs the same eidim of the chasana that could be 20 years ago. The same eidim for the chasana from the fancy hall in New York, the Torah Mizana 20 years later in Eretz Yisrael, ma kesher. It's always the same people? Obviously not. Why not? Kevan, Eidei Bia Tzrichel Eidei Kiddushin. The reason why you can't join the pieces, the puzzle pieces in the case of Eshes Ish, you know why? Because the two pieces are not the same size. Meaning, listen to this geoinus. I'm repeating the same line. Eidei Bia, line starts with the word Bia. Eidei Bia Tzrichel Eidei Kiddushin. In other words, the Eidei Bia, the eidim of the Bia of the relations, the forbidden relations, they need the Eidei Kiddushin. If not for Eidei Kiddushin, their edus is nothing. You guys are just yachne. What are you looking at? You stum. You're not made anything. You're saying the man and the woman had relations. To go teach biology in high school. But ma kesher, you're not telling me anything at all. There's nothing wrong, nothing substantial here. However, Kevin the Eidei Kiddushin lo yitzrich leidei bia. The Eidei Kiddushin don't need the Eidei Bia. What does that mean? Eidei Kiddushin, the Eidei Kiddushin themselves, when they one second. When they, I'm oching the computer, not you. Eidei Kiddushin, they don't need Eidei Bia. When two eidim stand in the fancy hall, or not fancy hall, and when they stand by the chuppah and made she's an eshes ish, they are made on something very, very substantial, that whoever she'll have relations except her husband, that's, I don't know, 5 million Jewish men in the world, she'll be chayav misa. So even though it's not a complete thing, but one edus is definitely very heavy and very substantial without the other one. It's not mutual relationship. Therefore, dovo karina bei. It's called a dovo because the first edus of what? Of she's an eshes ish. Wow, boom. When two edim stand in the wedding, with the photographer tells them what to do, and the flowers and the music, really these edim are made on one thing, Mr. and Mrs. They're made that if this girl goes to relationships with another man, she's chayav misa. That's a real nafkamina of marriage. Many other nafkaminas, but that's the nafkamina. Yeah, you don't say to the little kids around, but they're not. That's halachic nafkamina. So that edus is huge. Of course, the other edus of that she was mezana with somebody else is obviously needed to kill her. But lemaisa, the first edus is substantial, the other one is not, as opposed to the 3 years. When you have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 1 without 2 and 3 is nothing. If the person lived there only 1 year, it doesn't make any difference la halacha. Or we'll see later something else, but we don't know. Or just a second or just a third, each edus alone is nothing. In other words, yeah, in the case of the edus of the house, each one is a big puzzle piece. The case of the edus of the woman who's mezaneh, it's like a bottle and a cap. What's the main part? The bottle. You need the cap so it doesn't spill. You need it very much, but the main thing is the bottle. That's where all the wine stands, right? It sits, yeah? Now, let's compare to our Mishnah. Hachinami. Let's go to our Mishnah now. Even though Eidei Tvicha, the eidim of the slaughtering, they need the Eidei Gneva. Eidei Tvicha alone are not made anything at all. They shechted. What's bad with shechting? But Kevin, the Eidei Gneva, lo yitzrich Eidei Tvicha. The Eidei Gneva, they themselves are made on something very big, very substantial that he stole. There's already enough kamina from that. That is what we already know, that if from now on he will shecht or sell, he'll be chayav 4 and 5. Double karina bay. So far we have two levels of chatzi dovo. Again, Rabbi Akiva holds, and he argues on Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chalafta, and on Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and Abba Chalafta. And what? In case of 3 years, year 1, year 2, year 3. So the other Tanoim, Abba Chalafta and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, they say, no, we're okay with that. You join piece 1, piece 2, piece 3, year Aleph, year base, Shana Gimel, all together. You create one big picture, 1, 2, 3, and the guy's going to sit in the house forever and ever. It's his house. That's it. That's a raya. Beautiful. Because we do join forces. Masha'en ken, and Rabbi Akiva says no. In that case, where each edus alone is a nothing, each edus alone doesn't get me anywhere. He didn't say anything halachic. You're just being against it. You're telling me that he lived there for a year. Good, he lived there for a year. Maybe he also ate macaroni every day. Therefore, you're not telling me anything real, so it's nothing. Chatzi davar. In the case of either Eshes Ish or our case of the Mishnah of Geneva on Sunday, Zricha Mechira on Tuesday, that the first eidus is definitely very strong and substantial halachically. The second one is like filling the gap. That's called davar. So if you have the main crime, so to speak, or the potential crime, or not that getting married is a crime, but from now on, if she will be mezani, will be a crime. So the chasana eidim or the Geneva eidim are substantial, and you listen to them, and you also listen to the second ones, and then you join them together, even according to Rabbi Akiva. Now, that's good. We have two levels here. Now we're going to talk about a third level. The Rabbanon, Gemara, Rabbi Akiva, he had a good svara, a good drosha. Rabbanon, they seem to say, we can join the pieces. Yeah? We're at peace with the pieces. Yeah, we can join year 1, year 2, year 3. Each one has different groups of eidim, and we're okay with that. We're smart enough to put the picture together. But there's a problem with the drosha. The Rabbanon, hi, this davar v'lo chatzi davar, that drosha of davar v'lo chatzi davar, there is such a drosha. Lemiyuti mai. What will you exclude from that? We don't think that Chachamim disagree with davar v'lo chatzi davar. We think that they learned something else from it. They learn a different thing from davar v'lo chatzi davar. What is it coming to exclude? Yeah. In other words, they also believe that there's a certain edus which is so unimportant when it's only half the edus. Even they would agree it's not important enough. Let's see what the case is. Lemiyuti. We're going to exclude the following case. Echad omer begaba, echad omer bekreisa. Echad omer echad bekreisa. Echad omer echad begaba, echad omer echad bekreisa. There are two eidim, and they're made on a girl that she is old enough to be a woman. So her kiddushin would be kiddushin, Rashi says, or for avera, yeah. In other words, for oinshin, let's say she's going to be Michal Shabbos, yeah. It could be for a boy also, but for a girl, the anatomy of a girl is different to a boy's, of course. And let's say one aid was made, she has to have 2 hairs, yeah, you know where. So let's say he saw one aid, saw one hair in Gaba, in the back, in the more back part of that area. And one of them saw in the front. Yeah, the 2 hairs are in the same area, the pubic area, and one of them saw in the back, one saw another hair in the front. So in that case, yeah, even Chachamim would agree, that that's considered only half an edus. Soon we'll see why. But the Gemara is going to, that is so unimportant to see only one hair out of 2, we'll see why later, that's considered to be out of question. Even Chachamim would agree, you don't join the 2 edus together of Reuven seeing one hair in the front and not the back, and Shimon seeing in the back and not the front. Correct the Gemara. That's much more of a problem. That chatzi davar v'chatzi edusu. It's not only half a thing; it's also half an edus. Because on each hair you only have one guy. Since when in the Torah one guy, one man makes a difference anyways, except for 3 cases which are really not neged to us. But real edus to be mechayev, money or misa, only 2 eidim. So the Gemara quickly tweaks it. Ela limiuti shnayim oimrim echad begaba. 2 eidim saw one hair in the back. Shnayim oimrim echad bekreisa. 2 people say we saw one hair in the front. So now even Chachamim agree. Hani amri ktanahi. Each one says she's a minor, because if you say I saw one hair, you're saying I saw a minor, only one hair. The hani amri ktanahi. You go to Yosef and Binyamin, the other group, they saw one hair. They saw her as a minor, as a kana. Therefore, even Chachamim agree that when 2 people saw one hair, which is half the picture, and other eidim saw the other hair, half a picture, in that case, even Rabbi Yossi and Abba Chalafta and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nui, the entire Rabbi Akiva group, even they would agree that this edus is not an edus. And I'm asking you a question which Joseph asks, what's the difference between 2 people seeing one hair and 2 people seeing another hair? What's the difference between this and the 3 years? Why? When it comes to 3 years, we say the join, right? 2 eidim saw tashap, 2 eidim saw tashpa, and 2 eidim saw tashpab. Yeah, each one saw 1 year, and then we say, yeah, we join the edus. Why don't you say the same thing about hairs? Why don't you say 2 eidim saw one hair, Other two eidim saw another hair. It could be the same day, same time. Why don't we join that? What's the difference? What's the difference? Answer Tosfos, a brilliant, brilliant answer. You can look it up inside. It's astonishingly beautiful. One line of Tosfos will change your day and your week. Yeah, loy dami l'shnayim b'gav. That's Tosfos number 2, the first big Tosfos. Veloy dami says Tosfos l'shon l'shonim b'fnei shnayim. It's not the same. Seeing one hair is not like seeing 1 year. Yeah, why not? The Hossam over there by the year. Over there, they saw him going in and out of the house the entire year. They're big yachnas. They're from B. Yeah, whatever that means. You'll have to figure out yourselves. Yep. They're very yachna. They know exactly the entire year the guy lived there. There's nothing currently that they're missing when they saw the entire Tafshin Pei. But She'enken, the two people who saw one hair out of 2 did not see the other existing hair. So there is something existing now that they're not seeing. That is called missing an information. So that is so bad, that is so chatzi davar, you only saw half of the reality, and there's something you did not see actively. There, we say, that's considered to be what? Even Lefi, Rabbi Yossi's group in Abba Chalafta, even they would say that's considered as chatzi davar. To an extent that the edus is not an edus, and that girl is not yet called a gedola, she's called a katana, and she will not get a bar mitzvah present, and you will not kill her if she smokes on Shabbos. So there are 3 levels. Before I hear Rabbi Gitztin's important question, I'll just summarize. Maybe shall we have a chart online? What do you say? Yes or no? Who's voting for a chart? So now chart attack, 3 levels. There are 2 cases where everyone agrees, which means the best case scenario, best meaning it's the more comprehensive edus, even though it's not complete, is the case of our Mishnah and an Eshes Ish. There's one edus that gave me a gezunta halachic piece of information. The woman is married, Eshes Ish. What do you mean no? Any other man except her Chami uncle and her together in Bia, in Tashmish, is Misa. Whoa, what poo? That's an edus. Later on, 2 months later, 2 years later, it depends how bad the marriage, how early. So then 2 other eidim came, and I'm going to say chatzi davar. They're completing the main davar. That's the kul alma. It's good. You accept those edus, and that's our Mishnah also. So our Mishnah is not anti-Rabbi Akiva. We made peace. Our Mishnah is with Rabbi Akiva. The main edus is gneva. The guy's a ganev. He has to give back double, papa. And if he shechts, we know. The other eidim were just mashlim, the cap on the bottle, and they said he really did shecht at the end. Now it's 4 and 5. Everyone agrees that's not called chatzi davar. That's a complete thing. Now you have the other extreme. Everyone agrees is only chatzi davar is invalid edus, not a good edus. That is in the case of the 1 hair here, 1 hair there, because you are only made on half the thing. Right now the girl has 2 hairs, and you're right now made only on 1 out of 2. You're not deliberately, but you are mamish. Yes. Actively missing on information that's here. That's chatzi davar. We don't join the eduyos, and the girl is not called the gedola yet. The case to argue is the 3 years. When you have eidim that are made that somebody lived in the house for 3 years in a row, and therefore the house should be his house now because he lost the shtar and he claims that he bought it. It's chazaka. You have eidim on 1 year, 2 eidim on the other, and 2 eidim on the 3rd one. Then we say, oh, okay. Then we say that's a machloikes. Rabbi Akiva says that's chatzi davar. Each one alone is not a valid. No, you're not telling me any halachic thing. You're not telling me anything halachic. As long as 3 years are not there, 1 or 2 years is nothing. If anything, 1 year, you know what's going to happen if they're made that for 1 year live there? The first guy's going to ask him for rent. Yeah, that's the Gemara Cheskas Kabati. We're members. Yeah, you live there, but not long enough, and there are eidim that you stayed in my house for long. Use my electricity, pay me everything. It's only good be for detriment. Masha'enken, according to Rabbi Akiva, it's nothing. And Lefi Rabbi Yossi and his group, they say, no, we join that. Each one saw the maximum of what he can see for that year. They're not missing on something that's existing, right? They're each one saying the maximum of what they saw. And for Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Abba Chalafta, that's good enough to join all 3 pieces in that case, and we join it all together, and we have a beautiful edus, and the guy will live there happily ever after. Questions or comments? Dial 170. Yes, one dial to me and ask me a question. Maybe I can answer. Maybe. Whoever wants to bring me hot water will be a saint. Kodesh. Yes, please. Thank you. Yes. Yaakov reminded me, yes, if one aide saw one hair and one aide saw another hair, that's nothing. Because that for sure don't join. You don't join the aides of Reuven on Sunday and Shimon on Monday, or that's not even a starter. We're only talking about the what they're made on, what they saw. That's the issue. But of course, every bit that they see has to be by two people. Halacha starts and finishes with only two eidim. You only see one aid in very specific. Only three cases you have one aid. Not negate to us. That's not for now. Weiter. Continue.
Rabbi.
Yes. Question by Ellen. What did we say in the Mishnah? That if the persona stole whenever and he sold it on Shabbos, he is what? He's chayev to pay 4 and 5 because selling on Shabbos is not an issa d'oraisa, right? Therefore, business on Shabbos is terrible. Don't even think about it. It's not a d'oraisa. Then they're not chayev misa. The person who does wheeling dealing on Shabbos is not chayev misa, and therefore he's chayev 4 and 5. The less you chayev misa, the more you chayev the money. Frag the Gemara v'atanya potu. Boom, boom. We saw another brisa. It says that if a person sold on Shabbos, he's potter from paying 4 and 5. You know why? Because he's chayev misa. What? First of all, it's a steer to our Mishnah, and secondly, since when a person who sold on Shabbos is chayev misa for selling on Shabbos, and therefore is exempt for the 4 and 5 because of kimle, I'm surprised. My rabbi never told that to me. So now we're going to have very creative answers here. Very creative. Kitani the potu. That price of potu. You know when? I'll make a case. I'll show you a case where a person can buy and sell on Shabbos and be chayev misa. You know why? Because they did something called in Hebrew. There's a new word in Hebrew called barter. You know what it means? Barter. It's a new one. Israelis use it now. It's a barter deal. Okay. What's a barter deal? Be'omer you know, you should look, it's happening here. Be'omer loy, well, I want to buy your stolen sheep or your stolen cow. Okay, that's great. And you know what? I have some amazing, real tasty figs on my tree. Yeah, they're really nice. Let's barter. Yeah, it's very important to know. Yeah, let's say I'm the fig owner. Okay, and I say the ox or the sheep are by you still, and I trust you, Mr. Ganav. They're stolen. Maybe doesn't know that they're stolen. They're by you. Now you come to my field and pick some figs on Shabbos. Such a religious fanatic. Okay, stop all these religious things. Okay, and you can pick my figs on Shabbos. And as you pick the figs, and you'll get them by picking them, at that very moment, magic, the ox will be mine. Get it? I'm the fig owner. You pick my figs, and then so to speak, your ox will be mine automatically. That's a nice barter deal. What's wrong? People just do business, you know? They're all honest. So one guy tells the other, a kotz te'ena mite'enosi, like pikla, a kotz is like to pinch, like, you know, take with a knife, you know, cut the te'ena from my fig tree, the tikni li gnevusech, and your stolen good will be automatically mine. So now, how did he actually, excuse me, the Ganav, who's also Mechalel Shabbos, the Ganav is the one standing on the ladder and picking the figs on Shabbos. And when he picks the fig, yeah, at that very moment, or fig number 5 or 6, I don't know how expensive they are, at that very moment, the deal was done. So through Chilul Shabbos D'Oraisa, are you chayav misa if you picked figs off a tree? Well, obviously, stupid question. Of course, yes. So since your mechira happened right through Chilul Shabbos, at the very second of Chilul Shabbos, that is what? That's mamish kimla b'derabba minei. Because you're selling to the customer who wants to buy the stolen goods was through very clear, direct d'oraisa Chilul Shabbos, and therefore, in that case, you are kimla b'derabba minei, and you potter on paying 4 and 5 because it's a kimle on that particular case. Our Mishnah didn't speak about this very convoluted case. Our Mishnah spoke normal, regular sale. Therefore, is chayav 4 and 5. Dog the Gemara, frag the Gemara. It's not so simple. Amri, to ask a question. Now it comes to a very interesting question. to try and debilitate what we just said. Let's say the Ganav surprisingly did not follow his words. Let's say the Ganav took the figs and ate them, and then the customer, the fig owner, comes to his house on Motzei Shabbos and says, "Where's the cow? Give me the cow." And he says, "No, I'm not going to give you the cow. I thought you're an honest guy." He's a double Ganav. Once a Ganav, always Ganav. The fig guy is very stupid. So now the chitov lekaman betina. Let's say that the fig guy, the one who wants to acquire the sheep and the ox, comes to Beis Din, and he says, "I want the sheep, I want the ox. Either he'll give me back the eidim." He's not doing the barter deal. He's not following honestly on the barter deal. Lo yamina lezil shlim. We're not going to tell the Ganav, go pay him. You know why? The mechayiv benafshayu. Now, don't laugh. Just like we say, Kimla b'derabba minei means he doesn't get punished. He doesn't get punished on averas that are chayiv misa on money. You don't pay the money for the if you killed someone and his shirt tore, you're not going to pay for the shirt. Same thing. If you actually are claiming money because of a deal that was done through an Isser D'Oraisa, well, basically will not say you got to pay, not because you're a bad boy, because he's chayav misa, because you claim money from the customer who got your figs, and he said now he should pay me and give me the ox already. The reason why we won't say he should give you the ox, besides everything else, is because he's chayav misa. So that's a big chiddush, which Gemara will argue on later. Kimlev D'Rabba is not only about punishment. It's also about following business deals. Beis Din will not be mechayiv you to do it. Ha mechira na milav mechirahi. It's not called a sale. If Beis Din will not force him to give the ox, because they'll say we can't force him to give the ox, because the way he was mischayiv the ox is through killing himself, so to speak, through doing this D'Oraisa. Just like Kimla means we don't punish him, we also don't make him pay for that to pay to a customer. It's not called a sale. And most people, though not all, they say the what? Arba v'chamisha has to be a real sale, right? So that's not called a real sale. Therefore, your answer, Rami Barcham, is not a good answer. Because it's still Kimle. Still the same old problem of Kimle. And therefore it's not called Mechira at all. Elama Rapope. Rapope is a similar answer, but he avoids the issue. Elama Rapope. The customer, the one who wants to buy the stolen ox, tells the Ganav who wants to sell him, tells the seller, I want you to throw the sheep or throw the ox, the guy's a Superman, throw the sheep or the calf, throw it to my chotzer on Shabbos, and eat it on Shabbos. Throw it to my chotzer, to my yard, now your ox will be sold to me on Shabbos because it will hit my chotzer. You will hit my chotzer on Shabbos, and therefore that's kimla b'da'aba minei. As the guy who's the guy? The Ganav is throwing the sheep over the fence to the customer's house. At the same time, two things happen. Boom, kinyan, chotzer of the customer, and reshus l'reshus. I assume you all lived in places. Sometime in your life you lived in a place with no eruv, right? You'll know about that. So from reshus rabim to reshus hayochid. Voila! At the same time, you have the Isur D'Oraisa of Shabbos and the Kinyan Chotzer. And here you don't have the old issue of the ox staying in his house and he's not following the deal. The ox and the sheep are in the house of the customer. He's a very trustworthy guy, the Ganav. He delivers the goods. He put it in his house and it's Shabbos and Gneva at the same time. Very nice. Mimele Kimla b'Rabba minei. Mimele does not pay 4 and 5 because he'll be taken to Beis Din to skila. And that's the answer. However, the Gemara only points out, the Gemara is not going to reject it. The Gemara will not reject it, but the Gemara needs to tweak something. And that's taking us back to the beginning of Shabbos. I think the first Masechta we did in this year is Shabbos. Keman, who do you believe, who do you follow when you said that statement? Let me just introduce you again to Machloikes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbanon in Hilchos Shabbos. There's a Machloikes, let's read it inside. Ki Rabbi Akiva, what you say would only make sense according to Rabbi Akiva. The Omar, Kluta kemishun chadamya. A lot of olim know about klita. You know what's klita? Yeah, absorption. Misrad klita, merkaz klita, right? Sal klita. Klita means to absorb. Kluta kemishun chadamya means when the item. We're talking Hilchas Shabbos, not Gneva and Kinyan. When an item, Ikar Adin, it says, when I move something in Shabbos Milshus L'Shus, I have to do Akira and Anocho. I have to detach it from its original place, and Hanocho place it in a new place. Yochid or Rabim does make a difference. However, says Rabbi Akiva, if let's say I throw an object from my house to the street, let's say, and now it's already in the airspace of Roshus Harabim, yeah, or the other way, very nice. That's machloikes. If we say that, very, very nice, beautiful. If it's within 10 tefachim, let's do it the other way. It's much simpler. From Roshus Harabim, I throw an object to Roshus HaYochid. Okay? Once it's in the airspace of Roshus HaYochid, before it hit the ground, it's kalut. It's already absorbed in the air of Roshus. It's considered as if it's resting on the floor. Meaning, the Chakira, how to explain it, that's good enough. Once it's absorbed in the walls of Roshus HaYochid, and we know it's going to fall very soon, or even if we don't, it's also a question. Once it's in the airspace of Roshus HaYochid, it's considered to be already resting and you chayev. At that very moment, even before it fell into the floor physically, you already chayev skila. They take you to Beis Din already. I mean, it's already a reason to take you to Beis Din. So now, according to Rabbi Kiva, it works very well. Everything works very well. Both the theft and the Chilul Shabbos, the sale and the Chilul Shabbos happen together when it's in mid-air. According to Rabbanon, there's a problem though. Once it hit the roof, not the roof, once it hit the air of the Roshus HaYochid, it's already considered a kinyan chotzer. Kinyan chotzer, it's even in the mid-air. But linyan Shabbos, when it comes to Chilul Shabbos for Hanocha, it's only chayiv a few seconds later when it hit the ground. Chachamim don't say kluta k'mishuncha. Chachamim say that if this phone falls into the falls into the ground, only when it hits the ground, then I'm chayiv. The Gemara says, let's hit the paper, and the wind takes it away. Lucky me. No, it wasn't over. Only when it hits the ground. But when it comes to acquiring something midin kinyan chotzer, already mid-air you're chayiv, when it's flipping in the air. Oh, so it's not the same time. Kimle b'drabim minei is only when the Shabbos and money happen in the same instant, same second. But if it's a few seconds apart, it's not kimle b'drabim minei. So according to Rabbani, you don't have a kimle. When it hits the air, when it's in the middle of the air, the sheet, let's say it's a tall building, okay? Then what we say, it's not the kinyan, it's a kinyan. It's not Shabbos, it's not the Chilul Shabbos. So they're not happening simultaneously. So it's not kimle b'drabim minei. And so it's Gemara very simple, making lukimta. We'll finish over here. We're saying, let's say, made a condition. I only want to acquire your gneva, your stolen ox, your stolen sheep, when it's in the ground. He made it tonight. He made a condition. I'm the owner. I'm the buyer. And as we all know, the first dibra and the sersa dibra is the customer is always right. Yeah, customer is always right. The customer has the right to say what? To decide when the kinyan will take place. If the customer said, I want the kinyan only to happen when it hits the ground, it's only going to happen when it hits the ground. And in that same moment, what happens? Chilul Shabbos. So now you do have Chilul Shabbos. Because of this condition, you have Chilul Shabbos and kinyan gzela, boom, at the very same millisecond. And that's a very good answer, which we can stay with. We have a brisa that says that there is a case of gneva, but it's not even such a fantastic case. Makes a lot of sense. You have stolen goods, stolen sheep, stolen ox. Go to my backyard without my wife and children looking, without the other guy looking, without the police, and just throw it over the fence like in a thriller story. So what kind of kinyan is it? What? Kinyan chotzer. When did you acquire it? When it hit the ground. When did it take place? On Shabbos. Was he over Shabbos? Yes. Are you going to kill him? Yes. Because it's a skila. Because it's Chilul Shabbos. Chilul Shabbos and kinyan at the same time means that there is one case of mechira, which is kimla b'drabim minei. And in that case, the ganev will be patur from paying 4 and 5 because there's kimla b'drabim minei. Thank you very much. We'll continue the same issue tomorrow. Emeretz Hashem. Give baldige shloich. Have an amazing, amazing week. May everybody come back here soon. Very, very healthy.